Okay, it looks like we're flashing red, so it looks like we're going. It is Friday, the 28th of July, 2023, as I record this. It's about 6 million degrees outside in Illinois. It's been very hot, and going to be very hot for a few days. And I'm in here where it's semi-cool. You might hear a window AC running in the background. So this episode of my channel here is entitled The Unknown, a Fireside for Baha'is. And a fireside is usually, if you ever get invited to one by Baha'is, which could happen, that's where the Baha'is family or group or whoever invited you somebody may talk about something in general for a few minutes, like the unity of mankind or the equality of men and women. And then really what happens is, if people have questions about the Baha'i principles, the Baha'is will try to answer your questions. That's what a fireside is. In fact, the fireside chat of FDR may have borrowed that term from the Baha'i faith. I think they were already having firesides before the depression of the 1930s. Ever since probably the 1890s, the Baha'is were having firesides. And so it's kind of a double entendre here. It's a fireside for the Baha'is because they don't all understand what people interested in ufology, UFOs, UAPs, cryptids of various kinds, lost civilizations, that sort of thing. The Baha'is may not know all of the writings that they have that refer to support these ideas in no uncertain terms. And so they may not be aware of that. So if you're not a Baha'i, or even if you are, if you're aware of the writings in the Baha'i holy writings that support these ideas, you can educate the Baha'is as to what they already believe. And once you show them in the writings where this stuff is, now they may have a different take on it than you do, but they will agree with what it says in some way, shape, or form, because that is what makes them Baha'is. Baha'is accept their messenger, Baha'u'llah, the glory of God, and everything that flows in their holy writings. All of the holy writings, they accept everything. They may not understand it all, but they know that they believe it whether they understand it or not, and that understanding will come in the fullness of time if they don't understand it already. So that's an interesting wrinkle, because they're just like the bulk of the population. If 50% of Americans believe that ET is real, probably 50% of the Baha'is believe that ET is real too, that there's life on other planets. But actually, 100% of the Baha'is believe that there's life on other planets. 100%. They may not know that yet, but you'll know it before we're done with this episode. Likewise, this is a fireside for the Baha'is, because if there's any Baha'i out there who wants to use these writings for a fireside for their friends who might be interested in UFOs, etc., and they want to share the same writings with them that I have shared with you, only in some different setting, they're welcome to use everything that I've got, and so are you. And the reason that, if you're not a Baha'i, the reason you're welcome to use all of the writings is they already belong to you. That's it. The writings are a gift to mankind. They belong to everybody all the time. And so my hidden agenda here is to make the world of ufology more aware that these writings exist. That's it. That's as high as my pay grade goes. I'm not allowed to even want any more than that, really. All I'm doing is offering this to ufology because most of them don't know that these writings exist. Even though I've been published a few times, even though I've got a few episodes on YouTube, even though lots of other Baha'is have lots of different things going on YouTube. You can find out this information. All you have to do is look for it. Is that mostly nobody's looking for it. And that's because there's only 8 million Baha'is in the whole world. And that's roughly 1% of the world's population. And in the United States, there's probably less than that, because there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000 Baha'is in the U.S. And so where it says the unknown, a fireside for Baha'is, it is unknown. It's unknown. You're encountering the unknown, probably, if you haven't seen my channel before, or if you haven't listened to all of the things through fruition. Pardon me, it's starting to a little hot in here. It's unknown. And so you're encountering the unknown with these writings, not to mention the unknown that you may be encountering when you see craft in the sky or eyes looking at you from the timber. It's all the same thing. And it does all lead to the same place. It leads to a better understanding of the universe that we live in. So if I think of other things as I go along, sometimes when you get started actually reading on camera, you don't think of all the things you thought about and wanted to say before you get into this setting here. So I've got roughly 30 quotations, and I have used them before. And in this, The Unknown, A Fireside for Baha'is, I'm going to put those quotations all together in one spot to make it easier for anybody or nobody, but anyone who wants them all in one place, to find them all in one place. So here goes. We're going to kind of start off with E.T. and work our way through. And these are all from the Baha'i writings. I'll show you the references at the end. And if I think of something really worthwhile saying, I'll say it. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of go through these, and you can make up your own mind what you think about them and what you think they mean, because that's what matters to you, right? So here we go. Quote, "Know thou that every fixed star hath its own planets, and every planet its own creatures, whose number no man can compute." Number 2, quote, "On the contrary, that essence of sanctity is the sum of all divine and lordly perfections, and all creatures receive illumination from his emanational appearance, and partake of the lights of his celestial perfection and beauty." It's talking about the messenger of God. Going on with the quote, "In the same way that all earthly creatures acquire the grace of light from the rays of the sun, without any descent or abasement of the latter into the recipient realities of these earthly beings." That means we get the light of the sun without the sun coming down here and burning us all to a coal. Next quote, "All creatures that exist are dependent upon the divine bounty. As the light of the sun shines on the whole world, so the mercy of the infinite God is shed on all creatures." End of quote. Now, for those of you who may be atheist or agnostic or something, that's fine. No one cares. But we're talking about this particular independent third party who has a lot to say about ufology is the holy writings of a faith, a monotheistic faith. So it's going to mention God and his messenger in here. I don't care what anybody believes about it. The reason I'm doing this is it's talking about earthly creatures and all creatures. It talks about stars and planets, each with its own creatures. And so when you start to put all these things together, you begin to think, I wonder if that's not what it's saying. Okay, going on. Quote, "My meaning, instead, is that this endless universe is like the human body, and that all its parts are connected one with another and are linked together in the utmost perfection. That is, in the same way that the parts, members, and organs of the human body are interconnected, and that they mutually assist, reinforce, and influence each other, so too are the parts and members of this endless universe connected with and spiritually and materially influenced by one another. And if such relationships Such spiritual influences and effects are found among the various members of the body of man, which is only one particular being among many, then there must assuredly exist both spiritual and material relationships among the countless universal beings. And although our present methods and sciences cannot detect these relationships among the universal beings, their existence is nonetheless clear and indisputable. End of quote. Now, this next one is a statement from the Universal House of Justice. Their writings are not part of the holy writings per se, but they are the supreme administrative body in the Baha'i faith, and all the Baha'is try to do and follow what they say. And so they're elected every 5 years. So here's from a letter dated 11 January 1982 on behalf of the Universal House of Justice. Quote, obviously, as creatures of Earth have managed to construct space probes and send them into outer space, it can be believed that creatures on other planets may have succeeded in doing likewise. End of quote. And so when you put all that talk of creatures together, if you follow the thread, it's very obvious they're talking about, they may well be talking about intelligent creatures throughout the universe. Okay, going on. Quote, be self-sacrificing in the path of God, and wing thy flight unto the heavens of the love of the Abha beauty, for any movement animated by love moveth from the periphery to the center, from space to the day star of the universe. Perchance thou deemest this to be difficult, but I tell thee that such cannot be the case, for when the motivating and guiding power is the divine force of magnetism, it is possible by its aid to traverse time and space easily and swiftly. That's a fascinating statement, I think. How are we doing on time? Not too bad. Okay. Going on. Quote, we cannot say then that there was a time when man was not. At most we can say there was a time when this earth did not exist, and that at the beginning man was not present upon it. Quote, as to thy question concerning the origin of creation, know assuredly that God's creation hath existed from eternity, and will continue to exist forever. Its beginning hath no beginning, and its end knoweth no end. His name, the Creator, presupposeth a creation, even as his title, the Lord of men, must involve the existence of a servant. Quote, God hath raised up prophets and revealed books as numerous as the creatures of the world, and will continue to do so to everlasting. Now, I put a note in here as I was writing this. If you've seen Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse, all he's trying to do there is push the envelope back a little further using the data that he has. And what this is telling me is that there's data that you may never find, but the guy is right. There have been there's always been civilizations on Earth going back to as soon as it cooled, basically. Quote, know thou that the absence of any reference to them, prophets before Adam, is no proof that they did not actually exist. That no records concerning them are now available should be attributed to their extreme remoteness, as well as to the vast changes which the earth hath undergone since their time. And quote, briefly, There were many universal cycles preceding this one in which we are living. They were consummated, completed, and their traces obliterated. The divine and creative purpose in them was the evolution of spiritual man, just as it is in this cycle. The circle of existence is the same circle. It returns. The tree of life has ever borne the same heavenly fruit. Quote, when a cycle comes to a close, a new one is inaugurated, and the previous cycle, on account of the momentous events which transpire, vanishes so entirely from memory as to leave behind no record or trace. Life on this earth is very ancient, not 1 or 200,000 or even 1 or 2 million years old. It is ancient indeed, and the records and traces of ancient times have been entirely obliterated. Each of the manifestations of God has likewise a cycle wherein his religion and his law are in full force and effect. When his cycle is ended through the advent of a new manifestation, a new cycle begins. Quote, we are in the cycle which began with Adam and whose universal manifestation is Baha'u'llah, end quote. How are we doing on time? That may be enough. I don't want to have this run over long, and I've got, we've got lots more to read. So I think what I'm going to do is break this up into several segments of about 15 or 20 minutes, whatever this turns out to be. And that way I won't make it easier for me to get it uploaded. And we'll just go the unknown, A Fireside for Baha'is, probably 1, 2, and 3. So that's what I really wanted to talk about today, is just to get these quotes at least into a series, because I'd be talking for an hour if I had to read them all. So I hope you find them enjoyable. I hope you find them thought-provoking. And just remember, the writings of this faith and the faith itself are not imperialistic in any way. They don't care what you think. What you do is your own business. If you're a Baha'i, there are rules you're supposed to follow, that the Baha'is are supposed to follow, try to follow. And pretty much spirituality is up to you, and the writings are a guide. And that spiritual battle is your own, and this is just spiritual ammunition. So, if you know any Baha'is that been rolling their eyes when you want to talk about Bigfoot or you want to talk about E.T., on the one hand, what I've learned since delving into this is some of it may not be that they don't believe. Some of it may be that it really scares them or bothers them, and they really just don't like the topic. And then in that regard, out of respect, I don't bother that person with this topic. It's just like I don't bother people with the faith if they're not interested in the faith. Like in this format, if you're not interested in these writings, you don't need to be watching this. You can change. You will change the channel. So I think that probably does it for today. And thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. All this is copyrighted, I suppose, but see, the writings are already copyrighted, and they're already yours. You can make use of any of these quotes any way you want to. Take care. See you next time.